As writers and filmmakers, I think we all have the goal of we would love to have our creative work be our full-time income. And I was recently reading an article or watching some kind of instructional video about writing and filmmaking where the instructor said, if you're not making money from your work, then basically it's an expensive hobby. Like you're putting money into it and you're not earning money out of it. You're just funding this work like a hobby. And I don't really think that's a fair way to characterize creative work because in any business, there are going to be times where you have to spend money to make money. Now, those of us who hold day jobs, I still work in journalism and communications. Of course, I aspire to have my creative work bring in a full-time income. I tend to think that people are dismissive of creative work if you're not internationally famous, if you're not a household name like Beyonce or Bruno Mars or Spike Lee, or name whatever famous creative person who is a millionaire and a household name and have been that way since they were in their 20s. People who don't get rich and famous at a young age who are creatives are sort of looked at it in a, I would say, sometimes condescending way, like, oh, that's nice that you're creative, but it's an expensive hobby, as this instructor said. But I don't think that's the way to look at it. I look at it as a passion, a calling, a vocation. So if someone is a teacher, if someone works at a job to pay their bills, but they teach as an adjunct professor because teaching and educating young minds is something they have a passion for, would you call that a hobby? Would you call teaching as a part-time job a hobby? No, I don't think so. You call that a vocation. Let's say someone works as an accountant during the day to pay their bills, but on the weekends they have a food truck, and the food truck, maybe they spend more money in supplies than they make, but maybe they love cooking and they love, going to different festivals and taking their food truck there. Would you call that a hobby? I don't think if someone has a food truck and they're making money from it, maybe not enough to live on, you would call that like a side hustle or a part-time job or like an entrepreneurial gig. You wouldn't call it a hobby. Now, people, of course, just cook in their own kitchen as a hobby just because they like cooking. But if you're actually putting money into it as a business and spending money to get a permit to get a food truck and the permits you need to like sell at a festival or sell on, have space on a sidewalk or something to sell, that is an actual business. So I just think this mindset of that if doing something creative is not your full-time income, then therefore it's a quote unquote hobby. I think that's not the way to look at it. That's very reductive. I think those of us who are creative, we do it because we love it. It's a passion. I know that if I wasn't a writer and a filmmaker, I just feel like life would be not worth living. If I wasn't able to put stories out in the world, life wouldn't be worth living. And as melodramatic as that sounds, it's the truth. And I'm not I'm not saying that I wouldn't keep living life. Of course you keep going. But I just feel like the passion that we creatives share for storytelling is something that just fuels my soul and feeds my soul. And if you're creative, I'd like to know, do you feel the same way? Do you feel that you have to be a full-time, what have you, writer, director, singer, actor, in order for that work to be considered a job and not a hobby? I'd like to know what you think. So in the comments, let me know what differentiates a hobby from a passion or a hobby from a part-time job or a side hustle. Let me know what you think. I think this is an interesting discussion. And as more people, following the great resignation of 2021, kind of decide what they want to be, quote unquote, when they grow up, more people are pursuing their passions. So this is a topic that I feel is really relevant and is definitely something that we all are going to be discussing for some time to come. If you like this video, please leave a comment, share it, and subscribe to my channel.